Here we go. It's the Cassius Morris Show. Thanks for tuning in to episode 192 of the podcast with special guest, comedian, host of The Wet Spot on Compound Media and the Chrissie Mayr podcast. Of course, it's Chrissie Mayr. Make sure to go check out her YouTube channel and both of her podcasts. She's been making waves all through the comedy and online community. And it's always cool to see the stuff she's doing, including a drinking show, which she ended up inviting me on after we did this podcast called Never Have I Ever. So make sure to go subscribe to Chrissie on youtube.com/Chrissie Mayr. Check out all of her content, including that episode there featuring me. It was a good time. Some fun with some comics. Now, a lot of you have been waiting for this because I announced it on social media about a week ago. The podcast now has its very own exclusive Spotify playlist. The official Cassius Morris Show playlist is now live on Spotify. Be one of the first followers to be on this, because as of now, when you're seeing this, it's just become public. I haven't posted it on my social media yet, but what this playlist is a mixture of some of my favorite songs and a mixture of the music that you guys send me. My audience has fantastic taste in music. I love to talk music with them because of that, and we naturally end up sending each other a lot of songs back and forth. And many of the songs that you guys send me, I actually do end up adding to my playlist. I do listen to them and I do check them out. So I figured, why not make a place where I can put my favorite stuff, you guys' favorite stuff, and the stuff that you recommend to me, and really bring it all together and make it cohesive and make it something that goes nicely together. And of course, don't forget to follow the new social media pages for the show, at Cassius Show on Instagram, and the second YouTube channel, Cassius Morris Clips. We're going to be putting all the clips up here, building it up, and then having plenty more exciting content to come on that channel, so don't miss it. And with that, let's get into it. I want to thank Chrissie for taking the time to do the podcast. We basically jumped on this call and just started talking. There was no formal introduction. We started off talking about the fact that I was wearing a hat to cover the terrible haircut that I had given myself. And we really just started talking about the haircuts and grooming during the quarantine, and we just started rolling. So let's get into it. I hope you enjoy.
Are you doing them yourself, or are you trying to get them done somewhere?
I actually started cutting my hair myself, and I realized it's not as hard as I thought, because I usually just do like a bit of a fade, you know.
Yeah.
So the fade part I sort of gave up, but I mean, it's not that hard to do a military cut. I mean, if you can't do a military cut, I think you're in trouble.
Do you basically just shave your head except for the very tippy top?
Yeah, but even the top goes pretty low though. I'm used
Yeah.
to the style where it starts at the top, goes all the way down. See, I'm half black, so I go to the black barber. So they hook me up with all
Oh.
those different types of styles. Boy, always a fun experience going to the barber, by the way. We are recording.
Do you have to say that when you show up to the black barber? Do you just say, "Look, guys, I'm half black. It's okay"? Like, do you feel like you have to?
Yes,
Or
there's always
are they
questions.
just okay? Oh, okay.
Well, the one barber I've been going to lately is it's like a Middle Eastern Lebanese barber. And they feel uncomfortable asking sort of what my ethnicity is. So one time I walked in with my dad's black, and I sit down and everybody's kind of looking at us, and the one guy looks at me and goes, "Are you guys brothers?"
Wow.
And I just said, "Nope." That was it. Because I was like, dude, I was like, what? Are you brothers with the guy cutting hair next to you? Should I ask you that?
And you could have been friends too. I mean,
Yeah.
do a lot of father sons get their hair cut at the same time?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe when I was younger, that would be more fair. Like, even when I moved out of my house, me and my dad, we started meeting up and we'd usually go to the barber. So, but I do get friend too. Like, especially in Vegas, people were like, "Oh, you boys are looking good." You know, they thought we were hitting the strip.
Wow. Well, that's true. I mean, totally in some place like Vegas, like a father and a son could totally have a night out on the town, like both be single, trying to get chicks or whatever. So that's totally believable. And it's so different when you're a woman because like the salon, I mean, like if you're just like, there's two kinds of girls, right? There's just a haircut girl who's pretty low maintenance. And then there's somebody who's like, get a dye, get a blowout, get a trim. And I'm in that other category. And it's like, you can't bring anybody to that, that's like a journey. You can't bring anybody with you. That sometimes takes 3 hours, depending on like how chatty your stylist is. Holy shit. It's like, you got to allow, like, that's your afternoon.
That's a whole different world.
Yeah. It's like that would be torture to bring somebody to that. So they're just sitting there for 3 hours like, can we go get lunch?
No doubt. But I guess
Yeah.
anybody, if you're doing television and stuff, that's going to become a part of your world, even if it wasn't already.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I went I think I went a good 5 months without a haircut. I had roots like this thick. It was like, well, I didn't put anything on usually I do like an eyebrow, but I kind of just woke up. So no. So like you can always tell a girl's natural hair color by looking at her eyebrows. So I had like about this much of like dark blonde, although it looks like whatever. I'm
Do
sure
girls
this
ever
is like,
dye their eyebrows?
yeah, for sure. There's girls who dye. You can dye your eyelashes if you're not big into mascara and you've got like light eyelashes. You can just like, I don't know how they do it if you just dunk your head into a bowl of ink. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, or maybe I mean, I can imagine maybe they clamp something on. See, this is like I said, a whole new world. Like I'm a single dude,
Yeah.
so I don't get exposed to this stuff very much,
Yeah. It's a
other than
lot.
living with
It's a
sisters.
lot of upkeep. Oh, and you do have sisters. All right. So you have some exposure.
Definitely one sister. Yes.
Hmm.
How about you? Any siblings?
Yeah, I have I'm the youngest of three, older brother, and then like middle sister.
Okay.
So, yeah, my brother was like kind of, well, my brother and sister were both kind of nerds and they were much better students than me. And, but it was good because it pushed me to like be in all the kind of same classes that they were in growing up.
Mm,
And,
trying to
yeah,
keep up.
trying to keep up. And then my brother became an engineer and I'm like, well, I can't fucking do that. And then my sister became a history teacher. And like she's always quizzing me because she knows I don't know anything. And she's like, Chrissy, can you even name any of the Great Lakes? And I'm like, Ricky.
The one in my backyard was great.
Yeah.
Growing up at the cabin. I don't know the name of it. So what were your interests like growing up? Like because you're very multi-talented. You do a lot of different things. Was it like I'm interested in TV, I'm interested in podcast, radio? I guess there was
It's
probably no
been
podcast in the early 90s or something.
no, there was no such thing. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. It's like I'm really thank you for calling me multi-talented. That's amazing. Like I mean, I don't know how far back we want to go. In my church play, I think I played like a lamb and I had to like walk up on my hands and knees and I was like, yeah, I feel like
Kicked it
this
off
is what I
young.
yeah, I was like, this is what I need to be doing with my life. It's the cotton balls are like falling off my ass. No, I did one play in high school. Like a lot of times comics will be like big theater nerds. Like all that was not me at all. I did one
Okay.
play. I had no lines. I played basically a prostitute in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. But I was still trying to be like a regular high school student and not like a theater nerd. And I like did sports. I was a gymnast. I was a diver. I did like red and blue, which is like a thing that girls had before there were any sports at all. We just do dances, make costumes and shit, and then friendships are ruined.
It sounds about
So
right.
yeah, like the most high school thing you could think of. And
Yeah.
then I like went to college, was studying communications, really thought I wanted to be a reporter. You know, I was
Hmm.
fully prepared. Okay, I'm gonna have to move to Alaska and work my way back to a relevant market, you know. And then I think when I was a junior, I interned at Dateline, which was like a news magazine show at NBC. And then once I got a load of Stone Phillips, I was like, oh, this guy's so boring. I can't do this. And then I reached out to Allison Silverman, who was the only female writer at the time at Conan. This was way back when Conan was still in New York.
Hmm.
And I somehow managed to get myself an internship for my senior year at Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Then
Wow.
that's kind of when I realized like, oh wow, like just being around comedy people felt like it worked. You know, I was like, oh, this
Mm.
feels like my people, even though I'm just getting them coffee. Like there was a day where I got like every meal Conan ate and I thought like, wow, I'm going places, you know.
You're like, hey, it started with a bagel. Now it was, the burrito for lunch. So that's moving. Hey, that is moving up though
Yeah.
in that world.
Oh yeah, I learned like what his favorite gum is, his favorite yogurt, and I was like, wow, I could do comedy. And then, but it was amazing, even as an intern, and like the interns were like, there was kind of seething under the surface, this like tension because we all want to get hired. We're
Mm.
all like, what do we have to do? It's like the internships can be very competitive. Like I was so lucky because most people who get these internships are sons and daughters of executives or someone who knows somebody and
Connected.
connected, and I feel like I just got it on like really a real lucky thing. And I was like, what do I have to do? Who do I have to be nice to? But all the while,
Mhm.
I don't like love kissing ass either. So I just tried to like be good. And then I was so pissed when I didn't get hired by NBC. So I didn't get hired for Conan, which is fine.
Mhm.
But then I tried to be a page at NBC, which is basically like you give tours and you make like 10 grand a year. It's like the fucking worst job.
It's like
but
tours of like the front.
tours of Rockefeller Plaza,
Okay.
basically 30 Rock. So you're giving tours, you're wearing like a horrible Navy outfit. And I just desperately wanted this job because it was like the cool right out of college job. And I was so pissed I didn't get it because I gave tours at my college and I had 2 internships at NBC. I was like, what the fuck else do you want from me? Yeah, I was like, I want this shitty low paying job. What's wrong?
Yeah, let's go.
I didn't get it. I was so pissed. I think I even went out for it like even 6 months later. Didn't get it. I was like, I don't understand this shit. So I became a tour guide for Radio City Music Hall. That's the job you take when you have literally no fucking clue what to do with your life. I also wore a terrible outfit for that. It was like a little vest, pants up to here. Everything's polyester, burgundy. And they try to hype you up. They're like, ooh, Wesley Snipes used to work here. He was an usher. And, that only like takes you through so many months.
They're like, Jeff Bezos used to work at McDonald's. I'm like, fuck you.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now he owns McDonald's. He owns everything.
Seriously.
No,
it's true though. But the
yeah.
point that you made about the internships often being given to people who are connected, because I mean, when you look at a lot of those network shows, I mean, I think the Howard Stern show is one of the only major shows in New York that I can think of off the top of my head that like people sort of just randomly came in, like guys like JD. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with them. I know you had Stuttering John on.
Yes, I did. Woo! That was fun.
That was a fun watch, by the way. I really enjoyed, just for the record, your exchange with him. And in my opinion, I don't know, I'm not saying you feel this way, but it seemed like he was almost trying to catch you like in a corner or get you in a pitfall with comedy. I don't know what that was.
I wasn't sure like what, because I'm never trying to fight. Like, I don't know. I feel like the way I was raised, I don't like conflict. I want people to like me. I like do my best to make whoever I'm interviewing feel comfortable because I want them to open up. Like many times I'll open up and I'll get really vulnerable just so that they feel more comfortable sharing or whatever. So with Stuttering John, I'm like, here's a person who's done many interviews. A lot of them, he's worked with my colleagues at Compound Media. I'm like, okay. But then we started the show, we started the interview. He thought he was doing my other show. He thought he was doing Wet Spot, which is like an in studio on a panel, very different show. And he kept bringing up Trump. Like it was never my intention to like discuss Trump. I was like, let's just discuss like the Howard Stern stuff. And he was at the Stern studio on the 9/11. So I wanted to talk to him about how that felt.
And you were recording it like what, the day, like September 10th, right?
It was the day before. Yeah.
Right.
It was
so
the day
that
before.
Makes perfect sense.
Yes, it was very topical. And then I don't know how he brought it up. He said like, something like our president. That's what it was. He was comparing Stern to Trump. He was like
Saying
our
they're both
president.
very narcissistic, egotistical.
He has a thin skin. Yeah,
something like that.
You're bringing it up. I'm bringing it up. And then, he gets like have a lot of. And that's the thing. And that's what's. So he's in this group. He's in this bracket of people. That's the thing. That's what fame and or fortune does to people. It affords
Which one does John have? Just wondering.
I don't really know what his bank account is like. He's coasting. He's still coasting off of something he did 20 years ago, which is amazing. I wish we all had something like that could take us through years after it's done and relevant,
Yes.
And so, but that's the thing about fame and or fortune. It affords you the luxury of being completely out of touch. And he's not really out there grinding, doing stand-up comedy. I've never seen his name booked at the places that I was booked at pre-corona. And not like I'm like trying to big time him at all. I'm not. There's like, I'm kind of in the mid-level of headliners.
But you're out there.
But it was like a genuine question. I was like, I really didn't know the extent to which you do it, because then we have like people like Jeremy Piven who get very famous and get a huge following off of something else, and then they literally dabble in stand-up. I mean, he's become increasingly like more serious, and I was like very much on Jeremy Piven's side until he was like a dick to me multiple times, and then now
That's
I'm
fair.
like yeah, and now I just like really enjoy exchanging stories with people who also feel like he was a dick to them.
What did he do to you? Just sidebar.
Oh God. Like I was hosting for him. He was like really condescending. I was like hosting for him once, and we had a misunderstanding about like, so basically I was showing him, and we're jumping around so much in this, but I was showing him how to work the microphone at this comedy club in White Plains. And I was like, look, be really careful. It's very easy to turn yourself off. The switch is right back here. It's a wireless. And sure enough, like he turns the mic off and he's like, what? This is in the middle of a set, or like beginning-ish. First quarter. What? Drops the phone, drops the microphone. He's like, I don't need a microphone. I'm a stage actor. And I was like, oh God, how long is he going to go on like this for us? And I'm the host. I feel responsible for the well-being of the show and everybody there. So I sort of creep up to the stage. I grab the microphone. I flick it back on. I go, and then I hand it back up to him. Everybody in the crowd starts laughing, cheering. And I'm like, oh, okay, that worked out. The next day, he does the same thing. And I was like, is this a thing we're doing?
Is this a scripted bit now?
Yeah. I'm like, it worked last night. And then, so sure enough, I like go up, like same thing, hand it up to him. Everybody laughs. And then just before the third night of shows, I'm giving him some headshots to sign because the club guy was busy, and, I was like, I'm fine. I don't mind, running errands and shit. And also, Piven got there. He was like, I've been shooting all day. I'm real tired. I was really bending over backwards for this guy. I was like, let me go and get you iced coffee. I like talked to the guys in the kitchen. They don't make iced coffee at this place, but I was like, can you make one for Jeremy Piven?
You're like, okay, get some ice going.
Sure. Yeah, I'm running it up for him. I'm getting him things. I'm fetching, because it's like I have that intern soul, like I've had like 15 different jobs. You know what I mean? Like I'm just used to. I'm a team player, man.
You know how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not like too good for shit, So before the third night of shows, he's signing these headshots, and we're in this little green room, I guess. Like his driver is there. It's me. It's one other girl that wanted a picture with him, and can you sign these? He goes, okay, sign them. And he goes, yeah, by the way, can you just let me get through that bit once without you ruining it? And I was like, whoa, like, are you talking about the microphone thing? He's like, yeah, and I was like, oh my God. I was mortified, embarrassed, and at the same time annoyed, because I was like, you had many opportunities to tell me that this was a bit and to not step on whatever you were doing. And at the same time, people were laughing, and I thought it was a thing. I felt so embarrassed, and he was very shitty, and he was like, so he's going on and on about how that's a bit, let him do it. And then he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, you got me coffee. That was good. And tapped me like right in the shoulder. Whoa. I was like, ugh.
That is, I got secondhand chills just from hearing that.
I felt like shit. And then I came out of I was like holding it together. I was like, holding it together. I come out of the green room with the headshots. And I start fucking crying, like, because I just
You're
don't
having flashbacks about the iced coffee. You're like, fuck.
I am, yeah. And my dad yelled at me a lot growing up, so it's like somebody yelling at me, I'm gonna get upset. And so I was like crying, and then people are like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. And then like, so I tried to keep it to myself. I'm like, whatever. Like the show went on, it was fine. And guess who didn't get him an iced coffee for that third show? Your girl.
I'm looking at her.
He's yelling from the stage, can I get a coffee? And I was like,
yeah, literally. Hey, coffee girl, she's not here? Like, what the fuck?
So then when the show was done, I didn't really try to make a big deal of it, because it's like we all have our individual experiences with people. But turns out he was a dick to the staff. He was a dick to the other people working there. He was, he was like, at the end, he was like, basically was like, asked for his money and tore off. He had to do these like VIP meet and greets. He cut those short. One of them was like literally selfies by the men's room. And I was like, oh my God, these people paid like extra for time with you.
This is the exclusive package right here by the shitter.
This is the exclusive package by the men's room.
I know you don't always have like space, because I've worked at a club, but
right.
that's a little cheesy. And I don't really know anything about Jeremy Piven, but one thing I have found is that when comics are less than reputable to people, it usually doesn't really end at one person. Like whenever I hear that, it seems to be the same story as
Yeah.
you, that yeah, they were mean to the staff, they were mean to the fans, the bar. um and it's just something that comedians do. And you know, circling back a bit when we were talking about Stuttering John and stuff like that, it seems like a lot of these guys from the Stern show seem to be starting to get that attitude, especially the guys who are off the show. um
Mhm.
they sound very
Yeah.
disgruntled to me. I don't know about your thoughts on this, but you know, listening to some of the stuff that Artie's been saying when they're surprised that Howard blocked him on Twitter and stuff. I mean, are people not remembering that he threatened to release Howard's personal number? You know, this is what I'm wondering.
Whoa, I didn't know about that.
Oh, there you
You know,
go.
it's tricky because it's like I grew up on Long Island. I think Howard at one point went to my high school, South Side. Like I was a lifeguard at Roosevelt Pool. Like
Oh
he
yeah,
lived there,
that
and
was
so
his
there's a
school.
lot of crossover. There's a lot of like comedic personalities that end up coming out of Long Island. Like I don't know what it is, if it's all the chemical testing, but there's a lot of funny people that come out of there. And and I at the time I wasn't like I became a bigger Stern fan as I got older and more interested in comedy. Like, but at the time, just going to high school, I'm like just trying to get through high school. And I wasn't into Opie and Anthony. I wasn't into Stern until I got like a bit older. So I've been learning a lot of this like later on than these hardcore fans. But it's like I know some of these people. Like I've met Artie. I've done Artie's podcast. He's a solid dude. He's a really great guy. I know Jackie Martling. I've opened for him on a couple of gigs. You know, really nice guy. And it's like there's a difference. And then there's like with Stuttering John, it's like if you get famous and then you think you're good, and some of them are good financially. Like I don't know how set everybody is financially, but like I think what happens with a lot of these older guys is like they stop um they stop working, not like going out and getting gigs, but like you have to be like on the fucking pulse. You have to know what TikTok is. You have to like know what
Hmm.
other comedians are doing, where they're grinding, where they're getting up. You have to be on top of the news. You have to be pretty well rounded in terms of getting news. That's why when you talk to somebody like Stuttering John and he's spouting off mainstream media like typical liberal talking points, and I can't have a conversation with this person
Like
because like
Facebook links from 2 months ago that are supposed
yes,
to be new.
I'm like, this guy is not, on the ground with like a lot of other people. We're all just trying to figure out the truth, and like people, and I got pissed when he called me a right winger. I got pissed when he called me, he's like, oh, everyone at Compound Media, you can't have a different point of view than Anthony. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Hmm.
we're all different people. Like, Michael Malice is on the network. He's a fucking anarchist. We all have different opinions. And I didn't like that I get very annoyed when people shit on Compound Media and think like, oh, it's all right wing. You guys started the Proud Boys. And it's like, no, man, like they're like the funniest people I've ever met, the nicest people I've ever met. And
What is that about, by the way? Because it seems to me like when there's a network that even has a presence of right wing, because of course there is, but then it becomes deemed a completely right wing thing. What's that about?
it's a combination of a couple of things. Like, it's a Compound Media. I think their sort of subtitle was the Free Speech Network. And
Oh yeah,
at some point people started associating free speech with like being racist, which is not the case. And I think people
that's a
just
weird one.
yeah, people, I think it's more just like, here's a place where comics can be funny without being canceled. Here's a place where people can like give their real opinions on shit and not have a backlash, And Anthony started it after he like lost his job, I think on Sirius, and he just wanted a place where he could like be him and have
Yeah.
like-minded people around him. So there's like that aspect to it, and then like whatever people's preconceived notions of Anthony are kind of kind of gets over all over everybody else. Not everybody. There's the majority of people like love it and are fans, and the fans are the best people. They'll come out to shows, they'll support you, they'll like buy your stuff. They're the best. They're really like the best people I've ever met. And then part of that reputation, I think, comes from Gavin McInnes, which used to have a show on Compound Media, and I think the Proud Boys thing, I think, was even started as a joke. I think he like, he didn't invent like, create a group. I think he just was
Hmm.
like, oh, what if we had a group of people that believe this? They could be called the Proud Boys. Like, I don't, you know,
Right.
I
It's
think
it's
that's more
supposed to have
along the lines
become
of,
something
yeah.
that it,
And
what
then
it
it
didn't
kind of
start
ended
as.
up becoming something, but he wasn't over there like George Soros, like organizing groups and, it was started as a
Right.
joke, and I think people liked, everybody likes having somebody to blame. So
So there's a
uh,
there's a
yeah.
number of factors. Yeah. See, I don't really have any knowledge of Gavin McGinnis or the Proud Boys, so I can't really comment on that. But yeah, it's interesting with Anthony because I think there is a lot of preconceived notions about him. I mean, a lot of them are his own doing, but I think that people are not thinking of the things that he was saying on Opie and Anthony in the context of comedy. Like I really feel like, and this is just my assessment. I don't know him. I just listen to O&A, but my assessment has always been that he'll go all the way for it. And if something's really outrageous, he'll say it. That being said, a lot of the stuff has been, quite racist. I don't think that, but I think he'd be the first person to tell you that.
Yeah, he's definitely made racist jokes, racial jokes, whatever, but it's like they're jokes. And like, I don't have an entire like archive knowledge of all the opening Anthony stuff. Like, again, like became more of a fan of that as I got older, and
Yeah.
more recently, since I've only been on the network about a year. So
And he's had a number of shows since O&A too that have been, you know, comparably successful, if not equally successful.
yeah, and the network's been super successful, and it's cool that he's been able to bring other talent and comics on board. Because we're not all comedians. It's like Michael Malice. He's hilarious, but he's more of like a like a personality, like a political personality, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, Anthony's not a bad guy. People, I don't know. That's the thing. When people know you from a certain snapshot in life, they know you at a certain point in time. And especially like being broadcasting for hours and hours every day,
Hmm.
people really do feel like they know you. And then if you change or evolve, away from that, your longtime fans can get upset. And like, you have
Yeah.
Opie and Anthony, you have all these fans, and then they break apart, and then it's like mom and dad get divorced, who goes with who. There's always going to be a little bit of weirdness, just like you see with other comics. Like Amy Schumer had a set type and group of fans when she became famous, and then she evolved and kind of went into a different direction, and then
Yeah.
people got upset with that, and some those people left, but then she gained new fans. And I think that's it's weird. Maybe it's like a fine line between like evolving and changing, or like, are you completely changing your brand? And it's only
Yeah.
that person can know for sure. I mean, so
No,
it's
that's
hard
a
to.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I can see that. And we brought up Howard, and then we also brought up Anthony. I think Anthony's a great example of somebody who really evolved and sort of has come more into their own as a broadcaster and as a comedic figure on the air. And I sort of feel like Howard Stern has done it in this. He's done that also, but he's done it in a way that I think really more so alienates fans. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So I was just gonna add that it just feels like people weren't quite ready for it, but Howard was always ready for it because you can see the writing on the wall. Like, and I love Artie. I love Artie to death. Huge fan. But like when he's trying to interview like Paul McCartney, you can't have somebody nodding off in the background.
Oof.
You know what
No.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
really. But it's interesting to see how he wanted it to be more he wanted it to be more of a serious show, but people kind of want to fault him for that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people like to blame what's her face, that
Marcy Turk.
Marcy Turk, that she like came in and fired all the regulars and like, cleaned up the whole thing, and all the personalities, comedic personalities and comics that everybody loved were gone. And then it was more about like doing whatever needs to be done so that he can interview Hillary Clinton, and which
Yeah.
is such a departure. It's like he normally would be shitting on Hillary Clinton, and the long time, right? The fans that knew him at this snapshot in time are like, what the fuck? Like, this
And
isn't the
Ellen.
guy that we loved. Yeah. Yeah. He like, yeah, right, like went Hollywood, but and then people are like, oh, he sold out. But it's like, who knows how any of us would be if we were in that position. It's so easy to say, but like, I think there's probably like a real, I don't know, like maybe there's this feeling of like, this is what you have to do to stay relevant. This is how you need to be. You have enough people in your ear telling you this is how you need to go to
Hmm.
be relevant in 20, 30 years. I don't know. It's like, I don't know enough about Howard to know if that was his thing, or if he was influenced that way. But a lot of
Yeah.
people, yeah, believe like all ends of that.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I think people are sort of like when they discover somebody and they watch them rise to success, they're like, okay, they're at this level, but they're sort of just waiting until they float into the level where they say, ah, they got them too. They're doing this, this, and this that I thought they'd never do. But that's sort of in a way why people start. Like you don't start a massive radio show with a huge crew with a $500 million deal to stay the same and have a ceiling. You do it so you can eventually interview presidential candidates and interview people like that.
Yeah.
And also the idea that Marcy Turk is some sort of devil, I find that fascinating too, because I don't think it's specific to her, but she seems to have been demonized a lot, like she's some evil woman who's infiltrated Sirius. I mean, if I had to guess from the outside, she's a woman doing a job, and she's probably been asked, probably, by Howard and Gary to reassess things, and that's what she's done. But people sort of act like she walked into Sirius with a magic wand and waved it and changed the show.
Yeah, that's a lot of power to give to one person. And I think like as I become like more and more knowledgeable about like the inner workings of Hollywood, and it's kind of like anybody who really blows up and becomes super famous, I think they have to like do a little bit of like selling their soul to the devil in a way. I'm not saying that's what Howard did, but like you look at Katy Perry, she was a gospel singer. She was like going nowhere, and then like she's even said on interviews, I sold my soul to the devil, and then poof, like complete makeover, change, and then she's Katy Perry, and she's like, and then you look at Lady Gaga, so much like satanic symbolism in their music videos and stuff. It's
Tons.
like I'm not gonna get super conspiracy all up on this show, but it's like you look at the people that really make the jump into fame, and if you look at them, and you're like, well, this person is not that great of a singer, or so and so is just as good as an actor of all these other lower level people that I know. It's like they kind of have to do certain things to make that jump, and those things are only people who have done it really know what they are. Is there any
Hmm.
way to authentically get to stardom by staying who you are? It's I don't know of that many examples, unless you're self-made, right? Unless you cultivate your own audience. Like Louis C.K. might be a good example of that. Like
Yeah.
he never changed his comedic style, right? He was like canceled, right? But like had so much of his own crowd that he just released his own special, and
Hmm.
that's kind of when you become untouchable. I think that's like where Rogan is now. A lot of people are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, he sold out on Spotify." It's like, no, I think he fought to get, then he gets on Spotify, and a lot of those episodes, there were like certain episodes that weren't immediately uploaded, like with Michaela Peterson and Milo and I think Alex Jones, which were some of
Hmm.
the highest viewed episodes of his. But then I think he's fought, and I think most, if not all of them, are now back up there.
The majority
Um,
of them are. Yeah, it was
yeah,
weird because there was a lot, like I covered this on the show. There was a lot that were missing, but and they were all with either people who were strongly politically opinionated, left or right, or people accused of sexual assault. And
wow,
all of
yeah,
the ones that with conspiracy, I believe, were put back, but there are a few, maybe three or four names where all of their episodes are gone because they're
wow.
accused of sexual assault. So that's, you know what though, like, how do you feel about that? I don't really know how to feel about that.
It is tricky. Are you talking about like Dalia specifically?
Yeah, like, well, not specifically. I guess just in general. Like, let's say Spotify starts with the rule, okay, podcast can't have anybody who's accused of sexual assault. I
I
feel
don't
like it
know.
doesn't end there.
I think that's not exactly, if that's true. Like I always like to say, like, if this is true, what else is true? If Spotify can say, well, anybody who's accused of sexual assault, we're gonna flag their episode, take it down. Well, then yeah, exactly like what you said. Where does it end? Well, then can you say anybody accused of anything else? Do you know what I mean? Like accused
Exactly.
of saying something we don't like. It's like once you let censorship begin to happen, it's like they can kind of run, if you give them an inch, they're gonna run away with it. So I don't really like that, especially when it's just, well, they're accused. Okay,
That's
who's
the key
accusing
word.
them of what? How much evidence is there? Has this gone through any kind of a process yet, or are we just like accusing people we don't like, and that's the quick way to take them down? So I think
Exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
slippery slope.
I don't get that. And that is the key word, accused. Like I don't think any of the people banned from these episodes are convicted at all.
No,
So
it's
I
like,
can write an
yeah.
article saying accused, and then what?
Exactly. It's just like what God, I was hearing like Nancy Pelosi the other day, like this there's a video of her describing kind of like what their process is, like what the sort of like liberal process of creating like she was saying, right? So like I'm saying this really poorly, but she's like we basically create a story, you know, we create our narrative. We say it, right? And then we get a news outlet or a bunch of news outlets to cover what we're saying, right? And so now they've written about it. Now there's press on the thing. And then they can go back and use the press to bolster and solidify their own argument. It's like this fucking circle jerk basically of lies that they can say to further a narrative or whatever. And I'll have to find the video and like send it to you. But I was like, this probably happens in so many other industries. Like,
Yeah.
you say a thing, you get people to write about it, and then you can use that as your proof for continuing to say the thing. And I think that's kind of what happens with these guys who are accused of sexual assault. As soon as it's written up somewhere, it's like, ooh, and then all their friends, like a lot of their friends don't want to be associated with them, which really
Yeah.
fucking sucks, because it's like, what happened to prove, you know, innocent until proven guilty? So it's almost like the press is the damning thing, you know, just somebody writes about it in fucking BuzzFeed and now you're guilty, which isn't even
Yeah.
real journalism. But yeah.
It's very strange because it's like the LA Times is a serious thing. So if you have, even if it's not a cover story, if you have a page article in the LA Times that says your name, like sexual assault, it doesn't even matter what the rest says.
No,
Half the audience buries you already.
Yep.
Is
Yeah,
is
it's
that
shitty.
concerning as a comedian? Like, what's that like being in that climate?
It's concerning, but it's also like not new either. I've had whole groups of people come after me to try to cancel me for shit. So I think it's good. It's good when that happens to a comic, because it's like every time it happens, you're less and less phased by it, and you know that it will pass. You know, like the first time I had a group of people trying to cancel me, they were like people from Utica who were upset at a dumb like video I did years
Really?
ago, where I was like, oh, this is Chrissy's shitty tour of Utica. And I was like buzzed and bored and walking around Utica because I was there with my boyfriend for a thing. And I was just, it was really nothing, not even scripted. It was like actually terrible, right? And then like a local Utica news station picked it up like a couple months later, and people in Utica don't have shit to do. And then there was like, they played it on the radio, huge backlash. It was like 6 weeks.
They
It was
played
like,
it on
you
the
suck.
radio.
You're like, ah. I was like, not everybody here is on meth. And then people quietly in my DMs would be like, yeah, meth is really a big problem here in Utica, and I don't know what happened to this place. And
The people writing
people
you
would
that
be,
they're not on meth, they're probably on meth. Just wanted to let you
yeah,
know.
just like dumb poking fun. But people came after me for that. And then people came after me just during this lockdown for this like kung flu fighting, you know, video I did. We were making fun of the Imagine video that Gal Gadot did, and so when each of us would sing a line of everybody was kung fu fighting, and I was like, you could say kung flu, whatever you want. It was like a trending thing at the time.
Yeah.
And then the whole woke Asian community came after me. People thought I wrote the lyrics to Kung Fu Fighting. I was like, no, that's from the 70s. That's an old song.
So they were upset just because you used the song?
Yeah, they were upset that I said that we sang a song that said Kung Flu Fighting. They thought that was racist. And it was about a month later taken down from Instagram, and they called it hate speech. And I was like, wow,
Whoa. A play
what?
on words that is.
Yeah, this is a pun, you know. It was like, and I didn't even create the hashtag, so I was like, but at that point it didn't matter because enough people saw it. Like the point got across.
Yeah.
So I've had, and then with the Chrissy Teigen thing, I pointed out that she deleted a shit ton of tweets, and then I had all her fans coming after me. I had like
Her fans are aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I hear the worst fans are of Lady Gaga's. They're probably the most like vicious, and I haven't gone after her yet. So, but yeah, with Chrissy Teigen, somebody I think was trying to get a hold of my boyfriend or something, but they ended up leaving like a death threat on my boyfriend's dad's cell phone, and he was like, really,
wow,
it was bad. It was really bad, and like, they shouted, they like said in the voicemail that they knew exactly where we lived, like where I live.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of like fucked with my boyfriend for a while. And I was like, you know,
yeah.
What are you gonna do? Like
I
live
hate
your life in fear? It sucks, but I don't think if you live a smaller life because of that, then they will win. So you have to just know that this person's full of shit, like for them to actually go to the effort. And
That's true.
it wouldn't be worth it. So,
No,
but yeah, it
that's
sucks.
true. It's been a weird week for me because my last couple episodes I had Ace Frehley of Kiss on the show, and
Ooh.
he dropped the bomb. So we're talking, and I asked him about the fact that he covered the song "Politician" by Cream because it says, "I support the left, but I lean to the right." So I said, "Okay, is this your way of doing a tongue-in-cheek reference? Yeah, I'm voting right this year." And he starts saying rock and roll and politics don't mix. Look what happened to John Lennon when he got into politics, blah blah blah. And he all of a sudden he goes, "But I am a Trump supporter," and my
Oh, look at
jaw
that.
just hit the floor.
Because most people don't have like the guts to say. I think, yeah, it's you know what I mean? Because it's the easiest thing to say that you hate Trump. It's like
Yeah,
it's the Hollywood thing to say. It's the all the media is pretty much owned. Even at this point, Fox is owned by Disney, so it's like all our media is owned by like 5 companies. So it's like it's the popular thing to say. Like, oh, I hate. It's the easiest, non-controversial thing to say that you hate Trump, but to like actually say that you support Trump is like brave. The most punk rock thing right now is to be a Black conservative. Basically, it's like those are the voices that are truly brave and truly, it takes balls to come out, when your whole whatever group is for something else. So,
no, that's totally true. Yeah, and I mean see, I live in Canada, so for me, I wasn't shocked that he liked Trump because obviously there's 40% of the people in America that like Trump because he's one of the candidates. It just shocked me so much because we're going on a 4-minute conversation about how he doesn't think politics and rock and roll mix. And then he goes, "By the way, I'm a Trump supporter." It's like to throw that in at the end. That was the most shocking part. But then like, it blew up. It's been in all these articles, like
oh
Rolling
wow.
Stone,
Mhm.
and but like it's so weird because I was on the fringe of people like wanting to come for my show to be like, "Oh, you're kind of supporting Trump," but like there's no legs to it. So I've been feeling some weird hate from people, but I'm
Okay.
happy because
Yeah.
there's nothing to it. Because I mean, I don't have any affiliation with any U.S. politician.
Yeah, yeah, and I wonder. It's interesting because in Canada, I feel like there's like there's obviously a physical closeness, but I've always wondered like how much people in other countries like give a shit about what's going on here politically.
A lot. I'll tell you here in Canada, it's weird because we have small news networks that run like during like dinner to evening hour, and they'll like rerun the same local things in each city, CTV and CBC. But the only 24-hour news networks that we really watch are Fox and CNN. So
Oh
we're
gosh,
plugged
yeah.
into all the same stuff. And like my family, I hate it all. Like I don't watch any of it, but my family's addicted to CNN, and I walk in the room and I hear some of this stuff and I'm just it 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 makes my brain feel like it's losing cells.
Yeah, it's sad because like when I was in college and like right out of college, I always thought like CNN, that's the most newsy, serious news channel, like, oh, they have to be right. It's like you kind of like I learned that in college too. And then but now as an adult listening to it, I'm just like, oh man, like you gotta diversify, you gotta expose yourself to it. It sucks. It sucks that like there's so much more work involved in getting your news. Like it used to like turn on the news and they would say allegedly or this might be what's
Hmm.
going on. Now they just make fucking declarations based on whose motive they're trying to push or whose agenda, and then you
Yeah.
just follow the money up and you're like, oh, of course they have to lean this way. So you just have to like lots of different news sources. And I think that's why most people in this country are turning away from mainstream media. And maybe I think especially like the younger generation, like millennials and younger, and going more to podcasts. Like this is why
Yeah.
people like Tim Pool have 1 million subscribers, is that
Hmm.
people are just like enough. And he truly is a neutral voice. I think he's like a disaffected liberal, or he might still be, registered Democrat or whatever, but he's truly neutral, and he'll sort of point out the craziness on both sides. So
Both
it's
sides.
nice to see people like him getting more popular because it shows that, more and more of us are like kind of, turning the page or like looking for different news sources, and hopefully And that's the thing too. It's not like the major news channels are going to be like out of business either.
No.
It's like it seems like the one area where the market doesn't decide, you know, like they could have the worst numbers, but they're still going to be on the air saying the same shit. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, it almost feels like the more everything crumbles around it, the bigger it gets because they're reporting on that. So it's almost like they're never going to lose business. And you know what? I mean, I'm 21, so I missed, most of the old CNN, obviously. But I look at it now and I watch a lot of these old clips, and it strikes me as very different. And my theory is that, like, my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation, like you said, they always would wake up, watch the news, and that was the reliable source. And I think somewhere in the mid 2000s, it just switched. I think CNN was a reliable news network, and I think they did do good coverage. But I think at some point down the line, somebody started paying someone, and it completely changed, because what CNN is now is even not what I remember it when I was a little kid. I remember like the Casey Anthony story and some controversial stuff, but it was never like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my theory, is that it was reputable once, but it's changed. So that's why I'm glad that there's things like Compound Media out there. I mean, you guys are allowing all different perspectives. When does the show air? It's every single week?
Oh yeah, my show, The Wet Spot. Oh yeah, we got so off topic. I was like talking about the comedy stuff. And so the Wet Spot is like a sex dating relationship show, which I've had for about a year, and I just saw like kind of a need for something fluffy like that on the network. I'm like, oh, it's female hosted, blah blah blah. It'll still be like silly and funny and all that. So it's every Monday at 7:30 p.m. EST on compoundmedia.com. And yeah, it's fun. We'll have like, when during the lockdown we were doing shows over Zoom and we were making it work, but it's great to be like, we've been back in studio fully for like about a couple months now, and that's just great because we can have like, and I really was inspired by Howard Stern for doing this show, because I love the in studio like pranks and funny demonstrations. We like wrapped a guy in saran wrap because he was like a submissive guy that like what this dominatrix girl had brought in, and we all got to like step on his balls, and I was like, I can't do that, those are balls. You
felt too bad.
Yeah, and we would have it, we're not allowed to have like all the fans back in studio, but like some, right, like all the bullshit rules. So we're doing tonight actually like a dating game for he's like a super fan. It's actually like one of the hosts of Ski Mask Collective. It's so funny. The more you learn about comedy, it's like all these like podcasts and shows, it's all like a Venn diagram, right? And we all have like these overlapping fans. And then if you know, there's like this whole universe of people and who enjoy like similar shows, which is
really
like
cool.
Actually kind of the nicest thing. And so there's this show, Ski Mask Collective, and two of the hosts on that show are going to be on it. But one of them, Jim Stansel, he was engaged, like had a horrible breakup this summer. He was kind of like reeling from it. And so now today we're doing a Jim Stansel dating game, and I have these 3 girls coming in. It's all a mystery. He has no idea who they are, and it's like, how are we going to keep the identity safe? What questions are we ask? I don't know. We're going to figure it out. And then he's going to get to go on a date with one of them, and we're going to follow them, into the date basically, and try to make that work. And that's what's great about being back in studio. We can do these like man on the street stuff. Like there's another show, In Hot Water, where they have this comic, Barry Ribs goes out, who's like in his 70s himself, and he just like talks to like homeless guys. And it's great because like not everybody can just go up to a homeless guy and ask them questions. Like it's really a skill, and you really need to be like a certain kind of person. Do you know what I mean? Because
definitely
it could so easily come off demeaning or patronizing. And like Barry was homeless at one point, so he fits right in. He's the coolest guy, and like they actually will like pay the homeless people a couple bucks for like answering questions or doing doing tricks, but like there was this one guy who like was on a crutch, and somebody dared Barry and him to do a race, and I was like, oh no, we can't do this, like come on. And then like, on your marks, get set. The guy with the crutch, he picks it up and he sprints, like runs like I've never seen somebody run before. I was like, damn, this guy can run. I'm like, he doesn't need this crutch. And I think it was like neck and neck. I think Barry maybe like shoved him or whatever. And then they threw the guy like $5, but it's like so entertaining. And that show is in hot water, and they're Monday through Thursday, 2 to 3:30. And then they lead into Anthony Cumia's show. So
Nice.
that's been a lot of fun. And that was the show I went on for like, I was going on there all the time doing characters for like about a year before I even pitched this show. So I feel like, you know, Aaron and Gino are like my, you know, Compound Media daddies, and like I wouldn't, you know, be here if it weren't for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that sounds like you guys have some incredible programming, and it's so good that you guys are able to get back out there and start doing that. I mean, I'm out here. Things are a lot slower where I'm at in Canada, but we're looking forward to more things coming up and getting out there. And where can people find you on social media also?
Oh yeah, all things Chrissie Mayr, ChrissieMayr. I'm on, you know, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, but fuck China, not so much anymore. Facebook, Parlor. I love the idea of Parlor. I feel like they have some tweaks. I feel like they need to make it a better app, but I love that it exists.
Pretty new.
Follow my YouTube channel. That's where I have the Chrissie Mayr podcast, where I'll do, you know, that's where the Stuttering John interview is. And I'll do my other one-on-one interviews are all there. I have really good episodes. If you are fans of this comedy world, I did a good episode with Anthony Cumia, Dave Landau, Michael Malice, Gino Bisconti, Aaron Berg, Jim Norton, Doug Stanhope. So there's a lot of like, you know, if you're a comedy nerd, a lot of good interviews there, but I also interview like famous porn stars and a couple politicians here and there, and like libertarian peeps. So it's kind of a mix. And then there's a show, Never Have I Ever, which is like a group show, which you should totally come do if you're available, even Wednesday.
Oh, I'd love to.
Or any Wednesday. And that's like, we tell stories. It's like a drinking show, and we just like go, never have I ever fallen down a flight of stairs, and if you did it, you drink and then tell the story or something. Nice. So there's that show, the podcast, and Wet Spot. And yeah, follow me on all the things.
Definitely. Chrissie, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is fun.
And there you have it. My exclusive podcast with Chrissie Mayr. Make sure to go check out the Chrissie Mayr podcast on YouTube, Wet Spot on Compound Media, and all the other stuff that Chrissie's doing on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Make sure to go check out the podcast's new Spotify playlist called The Cassius Morris Show. Also hit me up with song suggestions. I go through all of them. And if I think it's a good mix, good fit, I'm going to put it on the playlist. Follow me on Instagram at Cassius Morris, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Cassius Show. We're also on TikTok. Subscribe to youtube.com/Cassius Morris or the audio platform you're currently listening on now, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher Radio. Also, if you can, hit that 5-star review button and leave me a review. It helps a lot. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Cassius Morris saying, rock on.